Let's bring in Charles Marino. He's a former DHS secretary, a senior advisor, and NewsMax contributor. Also with us is Michael Gould. He's a founding member of the NYPD K-9 unit. Charles, let's start with you. I mean, we had an NYPD officer early yesterday morning in Brooklyn. An 18-year-old now is in custody. The police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, had this to say about this. Watch.
After a foot pursuit, the subject was apprehended a few blocks away from the incident location at Rogers Avenue and Union Street. During the apprehension, the subject resisted arrest and refused to be handcuffed. A taser was deployed and the subject was taken into custody. A SAR 9mm firearm was recovered.
Here is a picture of that gun that was recovered. Do we have that here? Hopefully we do. That's it right there. A man in a ski mask opened fire on a family at barbecue, wounding several people, including 4 children. The gunman still on the loose. Police looking for that suspect. 2 examples of violence, though. There were shootings in Indiana, Florida, California, Missouri, and Ohio. Charles, your thought on this? A lot of these are blue cities. We know sanctuary cities, there isn't really that cooperation that we see in other places. Why all this uptick in violence after a holiday weekend like this?
Well, not only, John, is there not the support for law enforcement in sanctuary cities for law enforcement or cooperation, but really there's no common sense when it comes to keeping their citizens safe because their policies undercut everything that's reasonable to keep people safe. You know, the big thing here in New York is everyone seems to know that crime goes up during the summers, except for Mamdani. And let's remember, he had agreed to boost NYPD hiring to 550 additional officers. Now, keep in mind, he's no hero. That's only about 10% of the 5,000 that the NYPD actually needs to get up to the numbers that they need to get to full strength. So this remains a problem not only in New York, but in all other blue cities.
Well, speaking of other blue cities, we know Chicago has its fair share of problems because of its politics. Chicago crime is trending up. It's up 5% from the same time last year, which last year represented record lows. Yet Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is still reluctant to let President Trump help at all. Michael, what can be done here in Chicago? I know it's fair share of residents. They're fed up with the crime and their hands are tied, right? At the end of the day, if the governor's not going to let Trump come in with any additional aid, what are people to do?
Right. Thanks for having me. So, you know, the fact is in New York City, they have a relatively liberal New York City prosecutor. And if without the police are ready to arrest people, that's what we do. We have no problem. You see an army of police officers in Midtown Manhattan compared to the outer boroughs, by the way. So New York City was probably one of the safest places to be for all 3 events, the Taylor Swift wedding, the fireworks display, and the International Naval Review in the harbor, because it was a pre-planned event, all hands on deck, so to speak. But police arrest, prosecutors have to charge, and judges have to sentence. Without those 3 elements, the criminal justice system fails. And unfortunately, in certain places, we have a very, the Manhattan DA is, you know, he's decriminalized many of offenses that I used to arrest people for: disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, those types of, so to speak, quality of life crimes, which it's arguable whether they're serious or quality of life. So yeah, it's the 3-pronged system of our criminal justice system.
Yeah, and that, Charles, is the big problem, the prosecution. I mean, police officers can go and do their job. They can take people into custody. But if you're not having that at that prosecutional level, where you're putting people in jail and having them to serve time for their crimes, it seems to perpetuate the situation. You're back out on the street, and we see repeat offending.
Well, and that's a valid point to raise here, because what you see is a systemic failure in these sanctuary cities across the board. You know, this is no different than an orchestra playing where everybody's got to be playing from the same sheet of music. And if they're following the policies here of a sanctuary mayor who has no intention of accountability and deterrence, then the whole system's going to get knocked on its heels. And it's especially frustrating when it pulls in, as was said, the district attorneys and the judges. But look, we see this. We see that those positions have become grossly politicized. And as a result, you've got cops out there each and every day that are working hard, trying to do the right thing, but it knocks the whole system on its heels.
And Michael, it's really unfortunate because New York City, some of the finest officers in the country, unable to do their jobs at times because leadership won't allow them to do so. Not to mention, we just saw with the city budget, they allocated $7 million towards trans programming of all sorts, yet they couldn't afford to hire any additional officers some way, somehow. How does that resonate with someone like you who knows what the city needs and what residents want, and yet all of the money is going towards programming that doesn't really, at the end of the day, make too much sense?
No, it absolutely doesn't, but it's kind of historic depending on the political temperature at the time. I hate to date myself, but I was an active duty sailor in 1976 for the bicentennial, and I was stationed in New York Harbor. So I've been around a lot. I've been assigned to many of these things. But to Charles' point, there's a saying in both the military and law enforcement, police, us, we don't write the music, we just play in the band, to his orchestra analogy. So cops arrest people, they take people to the hospital, they do their jobs. It is up to the political winds at the time. Again, it goes back to this three-pronged justice system, whether it's the criminal justice system, the juvenile justice system, where we see failing in DC and Chicago and all over the country, when children, teenagers, aren't being prosecuted for violent crimes.
Yeah, very well said. In Boston, or rather Chicago, I should say, they saw 80 people shot over the weekend, 15 fatalities ranging from young children to adults. We know that President Trump wants to send in the National Guard, Charles. He thinks that this would be something that would be helpful there. Governor J.B. Pritzker does not want that to happen. But we did see this in D.C., but there was an incident in Tennessee here where two National Guard members who were patrolling, they were put there by the Trump administration. They fatally shot a man that apparently came towards the soldiers with a gun. Do you think that that having the National Guard there, does that extend beyond the police department, and are they effective in that regard?
Well, they're certainly effective to a certain extent in deterrence, just the visibility of them being there. But you also have to recognize that if you put them there, they are subject to the type of engagements that you just described in Tennessee. Now, back to Chicago. Look, I always say if Chicago were a country, they would have been designated a failed state years ago by the State Department, no different than Haiti. So, I mean, their numbers are through the roof. But Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson there, you know, they're two brain surgeons, as I like to say. They're never going to recognize that there's a significant problem there, nor are they going to accept the help of the federal government. And that's been to the detriment of the people, unfortunately, that have put them in office. Yeah. So this problem is cyclical, right? You ask how we end up with people like that in office, but then you've got to look at the people in the community that put them there.
Right. And you continue to have these politicians that are putting themselves before the public safety. We see that time and time again with the statements there from the Mayor Brandon Johnson as well as Governor J.B. Pritzker. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Michael, as well as Charles. We appreciate it.